Hello and welcome back to the Red Path. Today I'm going to talk about my recent experience at a RTT. Welcome back to the Red Path. Today I want to talk a little bit about a tournament I went to at the weekend. Had an amazing time, some good results, learned a lot of stuff. Just wanted to give an update because it's adjusting the way I think I'm going to play my list and actually make some significant changes to the list I've been running. I think it will actually improve my knowledge and my preparedness going forwards. And I think one of the most important things to think about, especially when you're going to smaller events like RTTs, is to make sure you take something away and learn something so you can be better prepared and get better performance next time. So the event I went to was the inaugural event at the Guard Tower in Columbus, Ohio. First one basically, in as far as I know, ever, but may have had some events pre-COVID, I'm not entirely sure. This was under the auspices of Death or Glory, which is a kind of competitive wargaming team community. They run the Motor City Mayhem Major, I believe, part of the Great Lakes circuit. Quite a big force, I guess, in certainly in the Midwest here in the United States. Provided a lot of the terrain. Prize support was absolutely magnificent, really well run. Had 2 TOs there and a few players from Death or Glory. They've got some very high level players in their team. Just all around a great event. The venue was superb. It's a little bit sweaty in there, but you know, it was a super hot day anyway, and you get a bunch of people crammed in, it's going to happen. But other than that, excellent event. Had an absolute blast of a time. So first of all, I'm going to jump in and just give a brief overview of my list, and then I'll go through the 3 games I played one by one. So let's dive into my list here. So list on the screen with some pictures flashing up. I'm not going to go into too much detail because anyone who follows the channel is probably kind of familiar with it anyway. So the crux of the list is Berserkers jumping out of Terex pattern assault drills. Then we have a couple of Contemptors and a Leviathan with Khorne in the middle, providing them lots of rerolls. There's a Cultist screen, Marines and Spawn are at the back scoring objectives, some Raptors zip out, there's an Obliterator to score me Rod. A lot of little moving parts, but essentially the strategy I like to define this list playstyle as is like turning up the heat of the oven. Every turn a new threat emerges. It opens up with Volkite from the Contemptors and whatever the Leviathan decides to shoot and kill. Then the second turn the drills arrive and add their Melter and their Volkite to the firepower, and I actually make a point of making sure my Berserkers stay inside the drills because I will not base a strategy on a 9-inch or even an 8-inch charge from Deep Strike. It's far too risky. Even with the rerolls, with the +1, no. Unless I'm going to have to gamble on that below 6-inch charge, that's about as far as I'm going to push it anymore. Now I will try and throw my drills in for a charge from Deep Strike because, you know, generally they're not going to face too much Overwatch, and, you know, maybe not against Tau if they're running that obscene Riptide or something, but for the most part they're the only kind of YOLO charges I'll make. Anything else I make sure I'm getting, you know, a nice safe 4 or 5-inch charge, if not better. That way on turn 3 my Berserkers disembark, they get a full 9 inches of movement with the disembark. The drills can move up in support and eat Overwatch if necessary. You know, there's a lot of things going on which just keep amping up the pressure, because I feel that's one of the few strengths we can play to as World Eaters, is that every time we hit it has to be hard, and blowing too much energy on an Alpha Strike with 1 wound and only, you know, toughness 4 on our line Marines, we run out of steam pretty quick. So I like to just keep hammering away with as much focused intensity as possible to take out key elements of the enemy's army. So with that in mind, let's look at how my games went. So my first game was against Lucas, who was running an Imperial Soup. It was about 1500 points of Salamanders and about 500 points of Astra Militarum. We've got the secondaries on the screen over here. You can see I took Engage in all fronts, Retrieve and Assassination because he had 4 characters, I believe, maybe even 5. He took Vital Ground, which is the mission specific, Retrieve, and Engage on all fronts. This is a good one for Engage because you've got, you know, you're having to move into the centre of the field anyway, and likewise you're going to want to take Retrieve most of the time if you're doing that. My list doesn't give up too many secondaries, so he was kind of stuck for choice. Obviously running off, at least with his Astra Militarum, off an old codex. Unsure why he didn't go down the Space Marine route, but that was his choice. Now, Lucas was a newer player. I think it was his first tournament. Absolute great opponent. He apologised straight away, saying he didn't want to get upset me for slow playing because he saw I had a chess clock with me. I was like, dude, no, the chess clock's here because I want to practice with it. I'm going to use it if you don't mind. But even if you time out, I'm not going to be that guy about it. We'll figure it out. And I will say this about him. We both ended the game at the end of round 5. It wasn't a whitewash or anything like that, at least not with kills. And we both had about 15 to 17 minutes on the clock of a 3-hour game. So even had it been a 2.5-hour game, he would have done fine. So he has absolutely nothing to worry about. He had no issue with his rules, his movement efficiency, none of that. He was spot on. And for a new player, I think once he's got some more experience, he's going to be a very solid player. So his list will be on the screen right now, and I've got some pictures up above right here of just going through the battle, just some snapshots. This game, I don't think his list is fully optimized yet. I think it's still a work in progress. I know what he's going for, and I really like the Wyvern, I believe it is, the Astra Militarum tank that basically fires tons of mortar shots. I think that's a very important aspect of an army now, having that indirect fire, right? I think there's certain things like the bodyguard rule for like Sisters, Death Guard, and whoever else gets it, where having that indirect fire can be absolutely crucial in some matches. And that sheer amount of shots that the Wyvern can get, absolutely great. And then his Marines, his army did a lot of work. I was just lucky, and I believe it's just down to experience at this point that I was able to overpower him and play the mission a little better. Like I said, he was a great opponent, absolute gent. He knew his stuff. It was just a case of experience. I honestly think that was it. Sometimes that happens. I tend to, we all lose to players who know the game more than us. That's just the nature of the beast, right? So anyway, I ended up with a let's go back to the scorecard. 92-39 victory, which was great. Put me in, I think, the top 5, maybe the top 4, going into round 2, which obviously means I'm going to face a much stronger opponent, which is something I don't want to shy away from. So my second opponent was Jeff, and he was running Space Wolves, and I've not fought against Space Wolves ever. So this was a really interesting match because Space Wolves are basically better World Eaters than World Eaters, quite frankly. They get +1 to hit on the charge or in combat. I can't remember exactly how the rule works. They get exploding 6s, which are just auto hits. They don't have to roll for them, so it's like a better Death to the False Emperor. They obviously get access to all the Primaris toys. They get psychic powers because they don't deny that stuff. They just have a lot going for them. Haven't seen them in the meta too much, but maybe that will change as it evolves. Anyway, Jeff actually won Best Painted, and he came 4th overall as well. He was a very strong player. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful army. Really fun to play against. Had a lot of good banter with him. Just genuinely nice bloke. Had a lot of fun in this game. However, it was sweep and clear, which, as I've been upfront about, I love this mission. It's one of my favourite missions to play. It feeds right into a combat army's dream. However, I'm facing another combat army. So as you can see on the screen here, I took Engage, Retrieve, and Direct Assault because why wouldn't you? Certainly as a non-codex army at the moment. Jeff took Stranglehold, the Space Wolves, Warrior Pride, and Direct Assault. The Warrior Pride one, if I remember it correctly, if 3 charges go off in a turn, you score 3 points. Something like that. Whatever it was, is very good point scoring, basically, especially if you're facing a combat army. So I was scared of this list. I was scared of my opponent, or healthy respect for my opponent. Let me bring up his list. His list will be on the screen with, again, some pictures on there. He was running Assault Intercessors, Eliminators, Eradicators, a Redemptor, Ragnar Blackmane was in there, and I knew Ragnar had to die. Ragnar was my priority one target, and this game was a back and forth. I had a strong first round, he had a strong counter, then I pushed forward again, and then he came back when his reinforcements, his Terminators and stuff dropped in. I thought he had me. I honestly thought, I think that was like the bottom of round 3, maybe top of 4. I thought he was going to just get me, and I'll be honest, I think he failed every charge. He may have made 1 out of like 5 charges, but he failed certainly several, and that gave me the game. I'll be honest, if he had made those charges, I don't think I would have had a road to victory at that point. But this actually goes back to my point at the start of the video, where my list is built specifically not to do a deep strike charge. It's great when it goes off, but you cannot, in my opinion, reliably build a strategy around it unless you've got like a 3d6 stratagem, or a add 6, or turn one of your dice into a 6, something like that. Absolutely build it in, but not if you're like us and the best you can hope for is an 8-inch with a reroll from deep strike. It's not good enough for me. So with him failing those charges, it gave me the opportunity of a lifetime as a World Eater. We roll up, we counter charge. I think he was on 0 or 1 CP, so he had no interrupt. I'd already killed Ragnar, so there was no like fight last shenanigans or whatever the thing that Ragnar can do is. And I clinched the match. It was close, as we can see, 87 to 80. I thought he actually may have scored 81 or 82, but that's what it says. So yeah, so I was incredibly happy with that result. Again, but so far I've had 2 absolutely amazing opponents, absolute, sportsmen, wonderful, armies, just great matches. This is what you want at an event, right? You want to have those matches where I enjoyed that, right? So going on to my 3rd match against the Death card. This was against Dominic. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. Another beautifully painted army. I'll pop over to some screenshot or some photos here in a moment, but Dominic was running Mortarion, Death Shroud, Blight Lords, Poxwalkers, a PBC. It was the Death Guard army from your nightmares. Just, it's not going to die. And it was Hell in a Cell. Battle lines. Or not battle lines, overrun, sorry, it's above me. 6 objectives. The last thing you want to face Death Guard on is 6 objectives. I just did a video talking about where I think Death Guard are weak, and it's generally the 4 objectives are battle lines, the one we played earlier, because it can expose them. Here, however, with the Poxwalkers, it frees up almost all their army to just come forward slowly and take every piece of firepower you've got to throw at them, and it did. I fired everything at them. As you can see from the score, it's not good. I scored 0 primary points. Every time I made plans to, hold an objective, he would find a way to contest it or just kill me off it. The mortal wounds that this army could deal was unbelievable. There was some kind of like virus bomb stratagem he put down straight away to push me off an objective. The psychic powers, all the stacking things when things happen, more mortal wounds accrue. It was absolutely perfectly disgusting. So let's go and look at Dominic's list here. So again, pictures above and the list over on the side here. So yeah, we've got Mortarion in Mortarion's Chosen Sons, I believe it's called. We've got 3 units of Poxwalkers, which I couldn't even get a bead on because his bodyguard Terminators, which was the Death Shroud, I believe, moved forwards with his characters in front, and he had the Plague Spewer guy or whatever he is, the guy with the flamer, Foul Blight Spawn, Plague Surgeon, Typhus was in there, obviously Mortarion. Yeah, it was. I made a couple of mistakes, which I'd even told myself not to make, and I still made them. I think I was a little bit too eager for the fight, but you know what, that happens. Sometimes you make mistakes, and it'll happen. So anyway, yeah, this was a heavy loss. Not picking up any primary points really. It was probably the most important moment of this RTT, because it really made me think, okay, so there are obvious weaknesses in my list when I'm playing on these 6 objective missions, or at least this version, because Vital Intelligence I really enjoy. This one, however, kind of, it wants you to sit back, because if you go too far forwards you can overextend. Obviously some armies can do this very well. Apparently Death Guard are one of them, that's certainly this kind of build. So that is something I need to consider, and I build my list to be take all comers. It should be able to handle any mission against any opponent. That's what I want for it. I know that's never going to happen, but I want it to do as well as I can. Against any opponent, I think my list would actually suffer on this. It's spread too thin. That is kind of a problem with Chaos Space Marines at the moment. We are far too flimsy, but we're also a little bit too elite to be able to spam what we need. Yes, we could throw out a bunch of cultists, but at that point then I may need to take a 2nd battalion so I can actually run my berserkers. So it gets very cost prohibitive to be able to have what you need on those objectives. So as we can see here, I've got the final scores, and I came 7th out of 20. I couldn't quite squeeze all the places on here, and I did win Best Chaos overall. Best Chaos because Dominic ended up coming 2nd with his 3 wins, but he got a prize for Best General for coming 2nd and getting some great scores. And I was super happy to get that. I got a brand new Bellicor, which was absolutely awesome. I really appreciate it. It was just a testament of how well Death of Glory and the Guard Tower supported this event. Absolutely amazing job from both of them. But I am taken away, I think more importantly from this, is how I need to adapt my list, how I need to improve both my list and my player skills in building a list and planning for this kind of take all comers thing, where I want to be able to stand up against almost, or as much as I can, and I need to be able to handle Death Guard. I'm very confident against Marine armies now. I've beaten every loyalist iteration I've fought with my competitive list over the last few months. From the very competitive to the newer player, I'm confident against them. I'm learning their tricks and what to expect and how to bait out the transhuman and all these sort of things. Death Guard have been a struggle. I've only played them a couple of times now, and they're a struggle. Armies like that I'm going to have to work against, because my army is maybe a not typical World Eaters army. I've got a lot of shooting in there, more than most World Eaters, I think, at least the standard World Eaters list. So there's some things I'm going to take away, and I'm going to adapt, and I'm going to talk about that in another video about where my list is going to go now. I'm going to test out some of those changes this evening, actually, playing against some Chaos Demons, so that should be interesting. But yeah, so that's it. Absolutely awesome time at this event. Had a great time with 3 great opponents who were absolute gents. The sporting conduct was phenomenal. There was a little bit of an incident on the top table in round 3, but you know what, the TOs were there, got it sorted. The players were, best of buds at the end. So it was all good. Like, these things are going to happen, especially when you're on the top table. The opinions are going to be strong, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it was an absolute phenomenal event. But yeah, so I really look forward to the next event over on the east side of Columbus, when it's run by Death of Glory again. I think it's going to be a great time. So yeah, until next time folks, I'm going to sign off for now. So stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main battle.